Broadcasts of HIKI NŌ are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo. And by Bank of Hawaii Foundation, investing in Hawaii's future by promoting collaboration, critical thinking, and other 21st century skills through HIKI NŌ. Kamehameha Schools, empowering Hawaiian keiki to explore, discover, and inspire. ABC Stores, a local company helping to transform education and develop Hawaii's workforce through bold learning initiatives like HIKI NŌ.
Hi, I'm Marlena Lang, a proud HIKI NŌ graduate from the class of 2018, and your host of a series of shows featuring outstanding HIKI NŌ graduates from the class of 2020. I was honored to be featured in the HIKI NŌ class of 2018 series 2 years ago. I remember getting together with my fellow graduates in the PBS Hawaii studios to share stories about our HIKI NŌ experiences and to ponder about our future. PBS Hawaii also aired a series on the class of 2019 with a similar format, but the class of 2020 is in a class unto itself. Starting with the outbreak of a worldwide pandemic, they experienced an unprecedented disruption of their senior year and long-awaited graduation rituals. Now, they are entering college in a world that is overrun with questions and very few answers. To comply with social distancing and travel guidelines, we met via Zoom rather than in the PBS Hawaii studio. Let's hear from our first group of outstanding HIKI NŌ graduates from the class of 2020.
My name's Emily Casey. I went to Kalāheo High School on the island of Oʻahu, and I'll be attending Emerson College in Boston, Massachusetts, planning on majoring in media arts production.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Tran. I went to Moanalua High School on the island of Oʻahu, and I will be attending St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri in the fall, and I plan on majoring in neuroscience.
So I'm going to ask you both about your HIKI NŌ experience and what you've learned through the HIKI NŌ experiences, skills you've gained, and how you believe it's going to help you in the future. For those at home who don't know what the HIKI NŌ process is, this will explain it.
My biggest takeaway from that experience was the independence that I was given to work on those stories and work along with my group to complete those and really share those stories that we were trying to tell. It's kind of like we had to figure it out on our own, but then that's what helped us because the bumps in the road were inevitable, but once we got there, there were the resources there for us if we needed help, but most of the time we were able to get through it, and it's really that satisfaction you get when you're able to complete the story or when you're able to learn on your own how to get through it. And I like that the most because that taught me how to figure things out and just keep going because life will go on if something happens like within your story or like a problem comes up, and yeah, that's applicable in like every aspect of life.
So I joined my school's broadcast program freshman year, and my teacher takes the approach of just throwing freshmen and sophomores in with some upperclassmen, and it's this environment where you really have to rely on each other and you truly have to trust each other, because you can't double check everyone and you have to be able to teach what you know to others. So I think the biggest thing I learned might not necessarily be how to work a camera or edit, but it was how to work with people, because I had never been in a situation where I had to rely on my teammates that much. I had never really played team sports and that, so I learned how to work in a group of people and trust them, as well as being able to talk to complete strangers in order to get a story. And I think that's definitely helped me open up and be less shy.
So I enjoy challenges because of the pressure and just the satisfaction you feel after completing that story in 4 days or in that given amount of time. It's definitely not the normal amount of time I'd work on a story. So the prompt was the hidden beauty of simple everyday things. And I worked on it with my group, and we ended up doing a story about a student at our school. Her name was Rogue, and she does have cerebral palsy, and so she doesn't walk normally like how we do. And when we learned more about her, we got to know her a little bit more, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, she was born this way, so we walk every day, and that's a simple everyday thing, but we don't really think any second thoughts about it because it's just natural to us. But for Rogue, this was different because she didn't walk normally like us, or she falls easily and such. With this prompt and with this story, we had this opportunity to get to know her more than what we just saw her as. I think it's there's more to her than what we see.
As simple as some tasks are for others, it requires a little bit more effort for Rogue.
Rogue has spastic diplegic cerebral palsy coupled with dual hip dysplasia and low muscle tone and scoliosis.
I need braces to help me walk better because when I don't have them on, I tend to fall a lot more.
We'll be at the supermarket and we'll be walking, and she'll be walking behind me in the cart, and she just falls, and I'm like, all right, get up, we're fine, move on. And everybody at the store is like, oh my God. And I'm like, she's fine, don't worry about it. And they must just think I'm the worst mother in the world, but I'm like, it's part of who she is. And they can judge, that's fine. They don't know what's going on.
Rogue continues to accept and appreciate her everyday struggles with walking, taking it one step at a time.
I'm glad that she mentioned the challenges, because that's a whole different ballpark. That's a whole different scenario that's very stressful. And I know, as you were describing it, I was having flashbacks to the challenges I've done. And I'm the stress of trying to get a story and trying to make it good so that it can air and you're not wasting people's time. It's insane. And yeah, I had an amazing opportunity to go and interview her for HIKI NŌ and PBS, and I was I remember being so nervous going in, because I was like, this is someone who is interviewed by professionals all the time, and I'm sure she knows exactly at this point what a good interview is and what it isn't, and I was just so nervous to meet someone like that. And then I met her, and she was so nice and so down to earth, and I felt like I could just talk to her and have a conversation and ask her whatever I just wanted to know about her and her life and her experience and everything about PBS.
First time.
Aloha. I have wanted to visit Hawaii since I was a little girl and read about what seemed like the most magical place on Earth.
In addition to meeting with staff and supporters at PBS Hawaii, Paula Kirker wanted to learn more about HIKI NŌ and meet some of the young storytellers in the program. She met with student journalists like Emily at the PBS station and also at Moanalua High School.
This was a story we obviously wanted to tell well, and I think I ended up being a little more in the forefront of that story, which is not something I'm used to as well. So I feel like the whole experience was just out of my comfort zone, but in the best way. And honestly, luckily, my teammate Hopi was the editor on that piece. She'll be a senior this year, and I remember trying to help her out because she was just trying to do her, she was trying to make it the best piece possible, and I think she did a really good job. And it's because that's what PBS has taught me, that I can always build trust and report honestly. It's what HIKI NŌ is all about, and it's something that I can take with me everywhere.
Emily plans to major in communications when she goes to college next year. Working with HIKI NŌ throughout high school has not only prepared her for her future, This experience has also sparked her interest in the world of media. This is Gabrielle Goodgame from Kalāheo High School for HIKI NŌ.
Can you tell me how you think your HIKI NŌ experiences and the skills you've learned will help you in your college career and with your major?
Wanting to study film and go into film, you have to work with people. It's very difficult to create something on your own, and that's something I learned very early on in this whole experience. So having to work with completely new people all the time, or people I maybe wouldn't have talked to if it wasn't for film, but then got along with great, sort of opened me up to just different personalities and how we work together and how we mesh and can create something.
Yeah, Emily, for sure. Like, the interacting with people a lot, and I also had to do that, and I definitely like to think that I'd gotten better at that because of a broadcast and all the talking to people we had to do. For me, I think it's a big jump from doing media and broadcast to neuroscience, but I feel like my passion stems from the same area, where it came from for broadcast, because in broadcast what I always wanted to do was just share another person's story, share it as well as I can, because it's just that good. And in the healthcare field, I hope to also bring that same care and concern for other people, and I think that's what will help me. Having a lot of those opportunities to interact with people and just getting through those challenges really helps with anything that will come my way in the future.
Yeah, I really liked how you mentioned how it would help you, tell a story in the healthcare field, because I feel like that's applicable to almost any job. People just want to be heard, and people want others to listen, and that's just something that can go across the board. And if we gain the skills of being able to listen to someone and tell their story or help amplify their voice, then it really helps, I think, just across the board.
How do you believe your HIKI NŌ experience and the skills you've learned from it will help you in the workplace after college?
I think that one thing HIKI NŌ does very differently than anything else you do in high school is you have to learn on the job, and you have to think quickly. And especially as we move into technology more and more, things malfunction and they don't work, and you don't always have time to get something new that does work, and you just have to troubleshoot and problem solve. And I think that's no matter what field I end up going into, being able to think on my feet and think quickly and figure out a different way to do something is definitely going to be helpful. And then as well as meeting deadlines,
like how you have to work with people and work with what you've got, and getting through those obstacles when you run into one. And from HIKI NŌ, you learn how to do or manage a lot of those things because of the collaboration, from working with your group members and with the people that you're doing a story on, of course. Having to problem solve and manage your problems and just be self-directed to figure it out yourself, that will help you in the workplace. I feel like I know that with these experiences, I know that I'm capable of getting through those problems.
So both of you just graduated high school. Congrats. Can you tell us about how your senior year was during this pandemic?
It was very surprising to us because we didn't expect this at all, especially with the ending of our senior year. We're what we've been looking forward to almost our whole life, high school graduation. It's kind of like the start of adulthood for some people. And with that, it kind of felt, with the pandemic, it kind of felt like that was being taken away because we weren't going to be experiencing what the normal graduation or the normal ending or conclusion to senior year would be like. It was very different because, one, we were all at home, we were in school with each other, and two, we wouldn't get to experience graduation, especially graduation here in Hawaii, with all the leis and just family and celebration. Yeah, it was very different and very surprising.
Suzanne and I were both in Washington, D.C. when it was declared a pandemic because we were both at the Student Television Network convention. So we were not home, which probably caused a little more anxiety of what was going to happen, as well as that disappointment of that convention being canceled. It was this thing where you couldn't blame anyone, and there was no one or nothing. I mean, you can be mad at the virus, but there's really no one to blame or nothing to blame. And you just kind of had to realize, I guess I had to come to terms with the fact that, people's health is number one, and there will be other opportunities in the future. And while I was looking forward to STN and prom and getting lays at graduation, it's not the end of the world that I didn't, and I'd rather have people, be safe and, be able to continue going to school next year and in the future, and as well as my career, and just look forward to that. Yeah.
I think it's a chance to look at ourselves in the mirror.
And I'm speaking to you from my humble home in Kalāheo.
And in the end, this whole experience has made me appreciate my parents just a little more.
And no one else will have a story like mine to tell.
So when I first heard about that, student reflections, I thought, oh, this is a good idea, especially reaching out to students, like how we're affected and how we feel about it. I really liked it because it was a time for me to reflect on how I felt about it. Because usually I, just keep it inside, but this time I had to actually talk about it and just reflect about how I felt about it, right?
Hi, this is Suzanne Tran, a senior at Moanalua High School, speaking to you from my home. COVID-19 has definitely changed a lot of things lately, and as a senior, I especially know how upsetting some of these changes were. But I do think that there were good things that came out of it. I like that my parents are finally getting a break from work. They work really hard and they have to do a lot because they own a food truck. But now they're at home and they get this break, and we spend a lot of time together as a family. I like that we eat dinner together, and we even had a game night. I don't think we've ever had a game night before this. It is tough for them to not be at work or to not work, but I think this family time is just so worth it because it's rare for us.
It was really nice to see other students reflect, even though I didn't do it myself, because a lot of what they were saying and a lot of what, it was like for them was the same for me, and I'm sure there's a lot of other students out there who felt that way. So it was just another way to connect with people, even if you weren't talking to them necessarily. Like seeing your reflection and all the other students' reflections kind of helped you feel like less alone in this weird time.
Like for me personally, I was planning on moving to St. Louis in around 2 weeks from now, in the beginning of August, but now I will be staying home here, and I'll still be attending St. Louis, but I will be going online, like 100% remote learning. So that's definitely not ideal and not what I expected at all as a freshman at a school in the mainland, but it's just what it has come to.
Yes, so my college is still having people move into the dorms. You can opt out if you don't want to, but so we can still move into the dorms, but there's just little adjustments that are being made to just make it safer for the community in Boston, as well as the students and faculty. So I'm only bringing one parent with me instead of two. We have to quarantine in our dorms as soon as we get there. And I believe we're being COVID tested, and we have to stay in our rooms completely isolated until it's, comes back that we're cleared. And just, small things like that. I think we're mostly online as well, with maybe a few in-person classes for, things that are just really necessary. So it's it's just a different type of learning, and hopefully, we all adapt to it.
I'm scared for this fall semester too, because since I'll be doing online learning, and we all had like a little taste of online learning in the ending of senior year, and that I had a lot of trouble keeping myself motivated and such, and I don't know what's in store for me with online learning and how I'm going to be able to handle that. Like, not physically walking and going into class, it's a whole different thing.
So as part of Generation Z, what advice would you give to other generations to get through this pandemic and to get through this season of life?
Being in this specific chunk of Generation Z, we were born when 9/11 occurred, and that was life-changing for many people. And now we're class of 2020, where we're in the middle of the pandemic, and it's kind of like when we first were born, and now like this coming of age time where we're supposed to be entering adulthood. And I think that just goes to show that, like, to put it in simple terms, like simplest way, life moves on, life goes on, and that's a big thing to keep in mind. I think other people can keep in mind too, because like 9/11, it had just occurred. It was super big, a lot of casualties and such, and very life-changing in terms of TSA and airport security and the United States in general. And as a whole, as a nation, we've adapted, we overcame, we've moved on. Many years now, like 19 years, and now it's 2020, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're just taking it day by day and just seeing what's next for us. And I think the biggest thing and the best thing we can do to get through something as big as this, if it were to occur again, is just to keep going. Life doesn't stop. Your life isn't on pause. It will still keep going. You just need to keep going and adapt, adjust, and you will get through it.
I think I have a few things that I would want other generations to know. And one is that every generation is going to face something that's going to give them some pushback. You're not going to grow up your entire life with everything just being perfect, like a perfect utopia. And I think it's important to not diminish what you're going through. It might not be the most important thing happening in the world, but you're allowed to be upset about it. At the same time, you have to pick yourself up and you have to move on, because life really does go on. So just take a moment to feel whatever you're feeling, and then think about what you're going to do tomorrow and how you're going to make it better for yourself and for others, and as well as lean on those around you, because you are going to feel alone sometimes, but if you lean on your loved ones, your friends and your family, anyone in your life that you trust and care about, it's going to make it a lot easier.
So we talked about your HIKI NŌ experiences earlier and skills you've gained from them. Is there any of those skills that have helped you get through this pandemic and adapt to this new world that we live in?
I think that there's like a yes and no to this. I think there's nothing really that I've done before that would have prepared me for this, but obviously when working in HIKI NŌ, you have moments where things do not go well. And at that moment, looking back, it seems dumb, but gaining some perspective. But in those moments when you fail, and I think just having those downfalls and still, having your teammates' backs and them having your back and having to pick up and move on parallels very similarly to being in a pandemic and just having to go on and move forward.
What we've learned working with HIKI NŌ, it's definitely applicable here. Like I said, it's applicable to everything in life. Life's going to throw these curveballs at you, like this pandemic, but we just have to get through it, like see what's wrong, see what we can do. We're going to have to get some things done by a certain time, of course, like meeting deadlines, and you're just going to have to work with what we've got. And that's like the HIKI NŌ process, because that's like working on a project. Those problems came up and we just had to work with it, because some things you don't have the luxury of going back in time to change it. And definitely, like how Emily, you mentioned earlier, like leaning on others and your loved one and just having that support around you. That's like the collaboration aspect, where you can just help each other, guide each other, get through this together, because this pandemic especially, we're all in this together for sure. It's affecting everyone.
Suzanne, what wishes do you have for Emily going into her college journey and moving forward in life?
There's a lot, obviously. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you have the experience that you want when you get up there, and that, we've kind of had like a lot of similarities in like working with HIKI NŌ and media and learning those through those experiences. And I really hope that you can take those and get through the problems you face up in Boston, with the pandemic or no pandemic, school in general. Yeah, you got this.
And Emily, what wishes and hopes do you have for Suzanne as she begins college and her life experiences?
I wish that Suzanne gets to move into a dorm room and get that freshman experience. I think you deserve it. I remember you from seeing you around STN and at the workshops all the time, and you were always so nice. You always reach out to the other schools and talk to us and be like, oh, I remember you from here or there. So you deserve to have the best college experience and the best career going forward, and that's what I wish for you.
For both of you, Emily and Suzanne, I wish you both the best of luck in college. It is a difficult but very, very fun and growing time. I wish you both peace of mind, especially starting college in a pandemic, and I wish you both just the best of luck in all that you do.
Broadcasts of HIKI NŌ are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Bank of Hawaii Foundation, investing in Hawaii's future by promoting collaboration, critical thinking, and other 21st century skills through HIKI NŌ. Kamehameha Schools, empowering Hawaiian keiki to explore, discover, and inspire. ABC Stores, a local company helping to transform education and develop Hawaii's workforce through bold learning initiatives like HIKI NŌ.